UT and OU are shaking up the collegiate athletics world. The two schools say they will not renew the grants of media rights when they expire in 2025. And we're learning the schools could pay a multi-million-dollar penalty to leave early. The two teams already meeting with SEC officials so they can join that conference instead. 25 News anchor Naya Gonzalez is live from McLean Stadium tonight. Naya, this is going to have a huge impact on college sports at Baylor as well.
That's right. Now, this move, it wouldn't only affect the Big 12 and the SEC, but also other conferences, big conferences, namely the Big 10. Right now, it's number one when it comes to revenue. They gain about $50 million per school per year. That's a lot of money. With the SEC potentially acquiring the Sooners and the Longhorns, they're going to take that number one spot. So then the question then becomes, well, will the Big 10 try to compete with the SEC, try to poach other schools? Will they try to poach any of these remaining 8 in the Big 12? It's a lot of questions. We don't really know. It is too soon to tell, but the Big 12 did release a statement that didn't really lead me to believe that any of those 8 schools would leave. In that statement, it said in part, quote, "We recognize that intercollegiate athletics is experiencing rapid change and will most likely look much different in 2025 than it does currently. The remaining 8 institutions will work together in a collaborative manner to strategically position the Big 12 Conference for continued success, both athletically and academically, long into the future." Now, if a UT and Texas A&M rivalry does make a comeback, some in the College Station tourism industry say this is good news, actually great news, especially when we're talking about economically. When conference games are held, fans travel, they fill up shops and hotels, restaurants in College Station. And when those travelers come in, it adds both excitement on the field and off the field.
It adds to people wanting to move businesses to our community because they're seeing a vibrant community. They're seeing people want to come and visit, not just go to A&M, but see other facets of the community. They're staying all over the community when they're here. So I think it's an exciting time for us to just build a community and continue to grow College Station.
Now, A&M is certainly benefiting, being the only Texas school in the SEC. If things change, some say the competition will grow stronger and much more fierce. Let's bring in KRHC News anchor Hallie Jones. She's been talking to A&M officials. Hallie, what are they saying?
Naya, and it's safe to say that Texas A&M leadership has not been thrilled about the potential news of conference realignment. This morning, OU and UT formally announced to the Big 12 that they will not be renewing their grants of media rights when they expire in 2025. Texas A&M leadership has been monitoring the situation since last week and called a special meeting with the University System's Board of Regents to discuss possible action on contractual and governance issues relating to Texas A&M University and the SEC. That meeting is still going on as we speak, but despite pushback from Texas A&M and even some Texas government officials, the SEC is likely to accept the schools. In order to officially be approved for expansion, 11 of the 14 SEC schools will need to vote yes. So far, only Missouri and Texas A&M have been reportedly said that they would vote against the additions. However, depending on how they realign the regions within the conference, some teams in the SEC East could potentially vote against them as well, if that means facing SEC powerhouse Alabama every year. And while Aggie fans seem to be excited to face old foes, Texas A&M Athletic Director Ross Bjork's latest statement to UT and OU was simple: we're ready. Naya?
Hallie, thank you. Now, SEC presidents have now called a meeting for Thursday. A tweet from Sports Illustrated writer Ross Dellinger says that Texas and OU have taken the first step in joining the league today. The next step will then be applying for membership, and then the third step is an SEC presidential vote. A group of lawmakers filing legislation on Friday that would keep Texas public colleges and universities from switching conferences without legislative approval. Now, the bill has more than 30 co-authors, but mainly it's just a symbolic move. The bill is unrelated to the special session agenda items, and as many of you know, it can't really be discussed without Governor Abbott adding it to the agenda, so nothing can be passed into law at this time. Texas and OU's contract, it doesn't end until June 2025, but some are already asking about the economic impact for Baylor and the city of Waco. Liam McNeil has the story.
Complete and utter shock is what some Baylor fans tell me they instantly felt when the news officially broke on Monday that the Longhorns and the Sooners would be leaving the Big 12 Conference. Many Baylor fans now asking, what does this mean? 25 News.
Leah, thank you. Now, there are a lot of questions surrounding UT and OU's move to the Big 12, many asking why. I think the short answer, and perhaps the easiest one, is money. The SEC is one of the most financially stable Power 5 conferences, generating more than $720 million in revenue. And just in 2019, the Big 12 reported around $439 million for that same year. The SEC also just agreed to a $3 billion TV deal with Disney, which would pay about $300 million a year for the next 10 years. So really the SEC, they don't need money, but why would the SEC want Texas and OU? Well, it's again, the same answer comes down to money. Texas was the highest revenue generating public school in 2019. OU was the 8th highest, but get this, if both schools joined the SEC, it could pass the Big 10 for that #1 spot. And who doesn't like being #1? The SEC would accept the two schools despite pushback from A&M, which is the only Texas-based SEC school. That money gained from adding them would be really an opportunity they just cannot pass up. But UT and Oklahoma need 11 of the 14 SEC schools to vote in favor of the move before this expansion can be approved. According to the Austin American-Statesman, A&M and Missouri would both vote against this addition. Now, if Texas and Oklahoma do actually leave, the Big 12 would be left with just 8 members and no schools ranked in the top 25 athletic department revenues. According to USA Today, the highest earning public school would be Kansas, which was ranked 28th nationally just in 2019. So, Todd, with these two schools leaving, the biggest schools, not just any schools, the biggest schools in the Big 12, TV deals are in the works. It's possible that an 18 Big 12 conference really is not going to be considered a Power 5 conference. And if UT and OU join the SEC, it would certainly become the very first national super conference. Todd.
Well, Naya, so much can change in just 1 week. All right, we'll check back in with you in a little bit.